Well, you can.
Well, are we on?
Yes.
We are on, folks. Welcome back, if you will, to the Producers Show, okay? And Rich is the guy. That's basically his part of it. And then I'm sort of his sidekick, so to speak. And we try to bring just common sense stuff, just community stuff. We talk about issues that, in all due respect, that we reflect on to educate and inform. That's really the format, I think.
Okay.
Wouldn't you think? Would that be a good one, Richard? Okay, good.
That's fine.
Well, the last time around, we talked about just basically running for office and politics and this, that, and the other.
That's right.
Well, this time around, we're going to talk to two people who have been on Oregon Voters Digest for a number of times, if you will, and they're artists in their own respect in terms of informing and educating. They're writers. So they're writers, and one of my buddies right here is Don DuPay. He's a vet like we are. He's a vet, and a very proud one. We went to school together. I graduated. I mean, he graduated, and I didn't. But I figured that would work pretty well, because that means we made a deal that whoever gets the degree first, the other one will just stop out and just rely on. So I identify with his degree. Did you get that, Don?
Well, apparently he got it.
no, Don, he got it. And right in front, I want to congratulate him again. I mean, he stayed the course. He stayed the course, and in fact, I think, was he one of the oldest grads?
He was the oldest graduate of 2017.
Oldest graduate.
Yes, and
wow.
he was mentioned in the program.
Wow.
The youngest graduate was 15, and the oldest was Don. He was 80. He wasn't named, but he was mentioned in the program, and Vim Vivel, who was the president at the time, mentioned that the oldest graduate was 80, and we were at the afternoon commencement. And after he mentioned that, I stood up and I pointed to Don, and then Don stood up, and they turned the camera.
And everybody got excited.
And everyone clapped, and it was wonderful.
Wow! One of these days we need to get a clip of that so we can show that on the show.
I have
you
one.
have that on clip?
Yes.
You should have brought one.
Well, it's on YouTube.
You gotta get one. And then he's got his dear wife here with him, and that's Theresa DuPay, and she's a writer in her own rights, and she does a good job, and she edits his work, he edits her work.
A little.
And then I edit both of their works by reviewing them on the tube. And then Richard's now getting
Then I'll edit everything.
That's right. Now Richard is getting in on the scene. And so as a result of that, here we are on this show. And I understand they've got some new material that's going to be coming out here shortly. And we're going to discuss that. And so we're going to be basically the reviewers. And Don and Theresa are going to talk about their books.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Sounds good.
Good. Okay. Don, who's first? Well, Don, first off, in fact, let's go, Don, just because the bottom line, when I met him, we had he's a former Portland policeman, and he wrote about his exports. Yes. And I thought that was good, you know, in the fact that Portland police, he had the history of Albina.
Yeah.
You know, in Northeast Portland. It's a very neat, unique piece. It should be in the Oregon Historical Society. Have you guys thought about putting that over there?
There are actually copies selling in the Oregon Historical Society, and you can order it on Barnes & Noble, and we are in the process of signing up with a different manufacturer, so it will be available on Amazon as well too. It's Don's book, Behind the Badge in River City, a Portland police memoir about his almost 20 years with the Portland Police Bureau.
It's a very interesting book. I had the opportunity to read it. It's
That's
an
the
easy read.
name of it?
Yes.
Behind the Badge in River City, Portland Police.
And it's an easy read. I mean, good big letters. I like that.
Lots of pictures.
It's kind of really. It's
The font is large. The font was larger, and I actually made that a special request because obviously it's not large font, but it's a larger kind of font because I wanted everyone to be able to read it and not lead to eye strain.
Very comfortable
for all ages.
Very comfortable reading. You can almost read in a couple of days.
Yeah.
You know, really, it's a really good piece. You know.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll just pick it up again and do it again.
I've been getting some stuff lately. I look at it, and the print is so small.
It's ridiculous.
That's right.
Sometimes there are books and magazines that have size 8 font, and that's microscopic.
Wow.
And it's just too small.
Wow.
But it was published in 2015, and then the second edition was published in 2016. And it's about Don's 20 years with the Portland Police Bureau. He was worked the streets for 6 years in Albina, and then he was a detective for another 11 years. He was a burglary detective and a homicide detective. And it's all about all the awful things he saw.
But what's so unique about it, though, that I'd found when I try to compare, because I'm still here, and I was somewhat familiar back in those days when I was here somewhat, is that I look at today's reputation or definition of police is so volatile as compared to, i.e., when people start talking about community policing. I mean, that's really when they were doing community policing during Don era. He knew his territory. Yeah. He knew the people, and if a person got inebriated or whatever, he'd put him in the car, take him home. Yeah. You know, that kind. But you can't do that today. Yeah. I mean, people are pulling out laser guns and all this, that, and the other. Well, you know, you get a slapstick and you hit the hand and it's gone. Or you slap them upside the head and it's gone, and nobody's shooting people all over the place. But my point, things have changed, you know. But
it's a whole different world.
Sure, but I like the comparison, because if you read that book, then you can kind of sort of understand the progression as made. And I thought that was good.
And Don's book really is the importance of Don's book is that it expresses the arc of it. The theme of his book is the arc of burnout.
Right. Oh, okay.
He was textbook. In terms of burning out. He burnt out at 42 years old, and I've read studies, because I have a degree in criminology, I've read studies about police science and criminology. 42 is the age that a lot of detectives and police officers burn out if they've been on the job for more than 15 years. He was at the 17-year mark when he burned out, and he didn't get the support that he needed. Wow. And he was really textbook in a lot of ways, but he doesn't really think he did much good. I always tell him that I think he did a lot of good, because I've read some of the letters in his personnel file, letters from citizens. But he is proud of himself for one thing, and that is for saving the Cam House.
The Cam House?
The Cam House, that beautiful mansion over in Goose Hollow.
Oh, okay.
Tell him about the Cam House.
The Jacob Cam House is an old mansion. Jacob Cam was one of the original pioneers here, and he had a beautiful estate, the equivalent of the Benson House.
Oh, really?
The equivalent of the Benson House. That kind of a beautiful mansion. Yeah. And in the 70s, when I was a detective, it was a derelict building sitting up in Goose Hollow, and it was waiting for recognition as a National Historic Monument. So until they were getting that designation, it sat vacant as a derelict house. And it kept getting burglarized because it was easy access from the back. People could jump up, kids jump up on the roof, come into the windows. Look at this wonderful old house, all the stuff in there, you know, it was just great. So they were continually getting burglarized, and one of my jobs was to install silent alarms. So I put a pressure pad underneath the carpet at the foot of the stairway. There's a grand stairway down there. Yeah. Beautiful stairway. And so burglars would come in, second floor, look around, how wonderful it is, come down the stairs, step on that pad, and the alarm would go off. It's a silent alarm. They didn't know what was going on. But the cops around there knew, and they would come up and put them in jail. So during the time that I had the alarm in there, and until it got to be on the National Register, we caught 35 burglars.
Really?
35.
35?
35. The ones that were juveniles, there were a lot of high school kids that would break in just to look around. Yeah. And we were afraid they would start a fire. Right. You know, burn the place down. Right. So we booked them for trespassing.
Wow.
But the guys that were there to pull up the artifacts, tear down the light fixtures, pry up the old good marble, tear off the woodwork, we arrested them for burglary. Yeah. So I'm quite confident that because that alarm was there, the place wasn't destroyed. Wow. And today it's restored.
It's so beautiful.
Really restored.
It's a French school now.
It's a French school, yeah, and it sits up on 20th. It's on 20th Street, just across the street from Goose Hollow Inn.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And I think they have a couple of apartments on the top level. It's a square kind of French French kind of
beautiful architecture
house, and I don't really know what the architectural style is, but it's beautiful. It's just beautiful, and
well, I'm sorry.
It is one of the things that I'm proud of was the burglar alarms that I installed. I had a good feel for burglars, and During the time I was doing alarms, I had a 60% hit rate.
That's really
That
pretty
means
amazing.
that 60% of the
Yeah.
places where I put the alarm, the burglars came back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not always did they get caught because I couldn't control that. That was due to the response of the officers.
Right, right.
But the officers caught a lot of them. I'll tell you.
Wow.
I asked Don once, I said, well, how did they, how did the police get notified? And I think you said it was a number 129 or
Well, we had
something like
a
that.
system in those days that because so many people were listening to police scanners, you couldn't say there's a burglar alarm at Eastmoreland Plumbing.
So they had a code.
So they had a code. The officer would be instructed to call extension 447, and they'd know that 47 was the alarm that was in the.
Interesting. Wow. So what do they do now?
I don't know what
how
they
do you
do
compare
now.
now.
I don't know what
Well,
they
they
do
got
now.
video cameras and all this other stuff.
Well, we
Does
had
that
we
work?
had sensors, we had pressure pads, we had infrared sensors that I used occasionally, but mostly the pressure pads.
Were
Because
the best?
As people walk in, they step on it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another story that was kind of interesting. George Moreland Plumbing on Foster
Yeah,
Road.
right.
The old guy lived there, was there for years, friend of one of my bosses, George Moreland, and they kept getting burglarized. And we had a group of safe burglars that were operating in southeast Portland at that time. So I put a tripwire across the aisle that led to the safe.
Yeah.
So that anybody walking or crawling toward the safe would hook that tripwire.
Just simple tripwire.
And then about a week after the alarm had been installed, we got a call. They caught 4 guys inside.
Wow.
And they were the guys that we were looking for. The guy that I'm thinking of, his name was Marv Setters. And
Marv
he told me
Setters.
when he told me when I interviewed him, he said, I was crawling, we broke in, and I'm crawling up the aisle, and I'm looking at the safe, I could see it. And he says, I knew I'd screwed up when I felt that fishing leader around my leg. They knew it was too late.
Yeah, right.
And
That's the
then
tripwire.
the cop showed up.
Oh, my
and
God.
put 'em all in jail.
Oh my God.
Okay, good.
But that's from his book.
So-
That's from the police memoir.
That's the
but-
effectiveness of silent burglar alarms.
Yeah.
So we did catch a lot of people with them. I don't know what they do now.
Wow.
But we
Interesting.
have 2 new books coming out this year.
Okay, what do you got?
So my book is a book of fiction,
Fiction.
and I have to plug my publicist. Her name is Jessica Glenn, and the designer for the book cover, her name is Gigi Little, and she is the graphic designer for Forest Avenue Press. And she designed this beautiful cover for my book, which is kind of an orange cover, and it's a replica of a photograph my daughter took with her cell phone, but she couldn't use the photograph because it didn't have enough resolution.
Yeah.
So she took a different photograph and she just kind of replicated it. But anyway, the book is called Burnside, Field Lizard, and Selected Stories, and it comes out in a few months. And I have a blurb from Tom Hansen, who's the author of American Junkie. And that was amazing to get a blurb from him because he's a very highly respected writer. And it's a book of fiction, 5 stories, and there is some graphic sex and violence.
Say the title and everything again.
The title is Burnside, Field Lizard, and Selected Stories by
Okay.
Theresa Griffin Kennedy,
Okay, this
which
is
is my
all
author's
fictional.
name.
Yeah.
All fictional.
That's interesting.
And I think it's going to be popular. I thought a lot about writing it, and I was kind of conflicted for a while. And I thought, well, I might as well just do what a lot of other well-known authors have done, and that is just completely let my creativity go and just write something that's a little racy. Don has written a novella, and it's an incredible story. It's called Frank's Revenge After Midnight.
Frank's Revenge.
After midnight, and it's about a former cop who had been fired, and he works as he works as a private investigator, and he lives at the Lotus Hotel, and he works as a private investigator, and he gets hired for a job from a beautiful black girl living in Albina. and his name is Frank McAllister, and her name is Theta, and it's a really sweet story about doing the right thing and falling in love. You want to tell them about it?
Well, it's a detective story.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
It's totally fiction.
Totally fiction.
It was based in Portland, Oregon in the middle 1970s in the height of the corruption. The police were pretty corrupt then, and the drugs, and the city was pretty much of a mess. You know, Albina was tossed to the wolves with the city. You know, as long as it was in Albina, nobody cared. So
Yeah.
Albina became a really dumpy, disgusting, rat-infested, drug-infested ghetto. And the story is surrounded about that kind of era, that problem, people being killed, cops aren't doing anything about it. Everybody's running drugs, including the cops. You know, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, and this story kind of weaves itself to a really cool conclusion.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
There's a lot of non-sex in it.
None.
Non-sex.
Oh, that's
These two people, we think they may fall in love, but we're not sure. They talk to each other, they sleep together, but they don't even kiss in the book.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
all left to the imagination. It's all left to the imagination.
And
But in the
What's
end,
title and
it's
of that again.
the title is Frank's Revenge After Midnight, and it's a novella. It's fiction, and it's by Don DuPay.
Okay.
all of the events occur after midnight.
And he's been working on it for about 2 years. It's been about 2 years, and we've gone through several drafts, and we're polishing the final draft, and it's really good. There's a lot of really interesting characters composite characters based on people that Don knew, and there is some interracial love.
Interracial love. We talk about places that will live forever in the book.
Yeah.
The Lotus.
The Lotus.
Which is now closed up and gone.
Yeah.
We talk a lot. There's some scenes, a lot going on in the Burger Barn. And a lot of the conferences go on in the Burger Barn. So it's trying to keep this history of Albina somewhat relative and explain to people what happened.
The story is really a trip down memory lane for anyone who's lived in Portland for longer than 20 or 30 years. The Burger Barn is mentioned. It's described perfectly. The waitress is a little old lady named Miss Rayford. And she's a very pretty little old lady. And there's certain names that we've used from people that Don knew, and the Lotus is described. The inside of the Lotus is described, really well, and so it's just kind of Don's way of like preserving kind of a continuity with the past, as he experienced it, and it's really, really good. It has, without sounding kind of moralistic or anything, it has a good message, which is unity and compassion and it's just a really good story.
The bad guy gets caught.
The bad guy
gets caught in the
Yeah.
end, and there's a twist to the end. You'll never think what happened to the guy, but I'll tell you this: the last page of the book is just a picture of a pot of geraniums.
Really?
Yes. And when you read the book, you'll understand the significance of those geraniums.
Right.
Wow. Well, that sounds good.
It is good. It's really good.
How many pages?
I don't know yet. It's 43,000 words. I don't know how it's going to come out in a book yet.
It's 43,000 words, so it's probably about 110, maybe 120 pages. It's a novella. It's it's not quite a novel. But
Who proofreads it?
I'm the best proofreader in the
Sure
world.
do.
I'm a perfectionist.
Okay.
It was proofread by our good friend J.D. Chandler. He's a writer. It's been proofread by Phil Stanford. And I've discovered after having 3 people proofread my book, I discovered that I'm still the best proofreader.
Oh, really? Cool.
My process is you print out the manuscript
Yeah.
in paper form, you have it bound at Kinko's, and then you read through it that way, because you're gonna see errors, excessive punctuation, misspelled words, typos. You're gonna see those in a print form in a way that you will not see them on the computer screen. You can miss a lot on a computer screen because of eye strain, because you're tired. And so I went through 10 copies after I thought, oh, it's good. I'm going to print up another copy and just read through it. And I kept doing that, and I went through, I've got a stack of 10 drafts.
Wow.
And then I went through the manuscript on the computer one last time a week and a half ago, and I found about 7 or 8 commas that I took out. So I'm the kind of proofer that is really obsessive to the point where I'll go over something again and again, and if I see that extra comma, it'll click and I'll take it out. I have a real thing about typos. I'm a perfectionist as much as I can be. And I think I'm a pretty damn good editor and proofreader. I really am.
I listened to this one author who was talking about all this at one time, and he said one person and another person and another person
Sure.
to keep proofreading it.
Yeah.
It helps to have
just
at least
couldn't
3
be-
or 4 people. It really does, because they'll see different things, and then they'll have different input. And I love to have that kind of input, feedback with people. I'm not the kind of writer that gets offended if someone says, you need to take that out. I don't get offended. A lot of writers are really touchy, and they get really offended if you say, this spot needs to go or whatever. I'm curious about what people think, and I can handle it. I can handle criticism.
You listen to it, you use some of it, you don't use it.
Yeah.
Because only you are writing the story, and only you understand the characters. And
Yeah.
other people's input is interesting sometimes, but they don't understand,
Yeah.
what's going on with the characters, so they make suggestions that don't fit.
Yeah.
One of the themes of Frank's Revenge After Midnight is the disappearance of the Tenderloin District,
Right.
downtown 3rd Street. Denny Moore's is gone, which is right next to the Lotus, which is gone.
Right.
And up the street was the Hamilton Hotel,
Right.
which has been long gone.
Right.
Which is an old dope den,
Yeah.
kind of a hotel.
Yeah.
So the whole Tenderloin District is gone now.
Wow.
And what happened in the middle 70s with the way the laws were different when the city jail was still at 3rd and Oak, and they still had trustees, and the Indians were coming in from the reservation, and they
Really?
would get drunk on the weekends and wind up in the jailhouse and wind up as trustees that were shining the shoes for the police officers at the day room, and they were also washing cars at the car wash. This was when they were still able to use trustee labor, So it's a story about how the Indians who used to be here and camped right on the river where the Lotus is now,
Yeah.
and how they've been pushed back 100 miles to the reservation,
Well,
and the whole story of the Indians and how they were treated in the 70s, is in there too. And this Indian fellow named Charlie, his real name is Charlie Rides the Horse, but they call him Charlie Horse, of course. So and he has a secret story that's a second story along with what's going on with Frank's Revenge. So he also has a secret about the Tenderloin District that he doesn't want to share. But the secret, bubbles up inside of him over these years, and he finally has to tell somebody about what he knows about what happened. Something horrible that happened there in the Lotus area. So it's about the Tenderloin District. It's about a really interesting time in Portland's past. And I'm going to tell you that I fell in love with Indian Charlie.
yeah.
Indian Charlie was one of my favorite. Is my favorite character, and I hope to make you guys fall in love with Indian Charlie also. Yeah.
Indian Charlie.
A couple weeks ago, we were reading it. Dawn was reading it. It was late at night, and we were reading it, and we both got emotional. And because it's kind of a joke. Writers fall in love with their characters sometimes, or they start to think of them as real people. They're not real people; they're just characters. But still, there's this weird connection. And he was reading the book, and we both got kind of emotional. The story is set in 1975, and the characters are Frank McAllister, Theda, Indian Charlie, or Charlie Horse, or Charlie Rides the Horse, and then there's about 3 cops, and then there's another couple of black characters that are in the story.
There's a council of old gangsters.
Yeah.
They call it the OGs.
The OGs.
Okay.
Yeah, and their headquarters is in the back room of the burger barn.
Yeah, burger barn.
And they hold council back there.
Yeah.
You know, so there's one of them who was a wire thief, retired wire thief. Another one was a retired car thief, and another one was a retired arsonist.
That's Leon, right? Or Neon. Yeah,
Jones.
Neon. Neon Jones is the retired.
These are the old gangsters that are tired of what's going on in Albina now.
Okay.
With the murders and the dope.
Right. Okay.
And they hire this private detective to solve the problem.
Right, because the police won't solve. There's somebody out, and this person is killing young black males, robbing them and killing them, and the police don't want to solve the murders. They don't care. So these gangsters hire Frank McAllister to solve this crime, and he does.
And they're old and ugly and not attractive men, and so they know that if they go talk to Frank McAllister, he'll say, "Yeah, I'm going." So they send a pretty girl.
Theda.
They send Theda, and Theda knocks on the door and talks to Frank and begs him to come and help, and he don't want to talk to her first, but she's kind of cute, and so maybe we can do something. You know? But he don't work for free. He don't work for free, so the OGs have to come up with some money, and they do. And so they hire Frank to take care of the problem.
And the relationship between Theda and Frank McAllister is really sweet. And there's a little bit of an age difference. She's 28, and Frank McAllister is alluded to be about 52. So there's a little bit of an age difference. But really, the story, the novella has a lot of wonderful messages about just unity and harmony and doing the right thing. And
do the right thing. Yeah.
And it also, it has some, messages about, about really the corruption and the Portland Police Bureau in 1975. It was pretty corrupt. I mean, there's no doubt. There's no way around it. It was corrupt in 1975. But that's Dawn's book, and it's going to be coming out in the next year, and so.
How'd you find that one? How'd you find? How'd you find this piece of work that you?
It just
something that
just came to him.
It just came to me, it just. Don't ask a writer how that happened because I can't explain it.
You can't explain it?
No, I had this one little line in my head for a long, long time about this young lady who was in a hurry, walking down 3rd Avenue. She was a white girl, and she was in a hurry, and she was trying to get to the pawn shop before it closed so she could get her wedding ring out. And somehow that morphed into Theda trying to get a hold of Frank, for a murder.
We talked about it, and I said, I said, well, what does Theda look like? And he said, oh, she's blonde. I said, well, why don't you, think about maybe making her, a black girl. Think about. And so we talked about it because this is happening in Albina. Why would she be white? And so we talked about it, and he agreed. So she's a beautiful black girl with topaz brown eyes, and
there's a lot of discussion too about the police, about why the homicide detail, they're just swamped with murders. There's 55 and 56 and 57 murders in 1975, which was true.
Yes.
There were a lot of homicides then. And here we are with a whole bunch of black folks that are getting murdered. And the problem, of course, is that nobody in the ghetto wants cops knock on the door. Do you see this? Do you know who this person is? No. Did you hear anything? No. So it's the frustration of the police not getting any cooperation from the community, and still the dead bodies are piling up.
Except some of the victims some of the family members of the victims want the murders solved, but they're not getting anywhere. So it's
that problem with the police aren't getting any cooperation, so they say to hell with it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to collect my pension. I don't care whether you get murdered or not. I'm here. It's about eating.
That's right.
It's about eating.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I care about my pension. I don't give a damn about you.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
about this kind of frustration that goes on with the police.
Right.
So there's a lot of meat in there. There's a lot of
It's
meat
a really
in
good
it.
story.
I'm proud of the story.
It's clever, and the ending is clever, and it's, you know, it's a nice mystery with heart.
Huh.
It's a story with heart.
Stay tuned for the geranium.
I like it. Anything after that? Well, you're going to complete this piece. Anything on the table that you think?
Well, I still say, you know, I
you
do
got-
two things pretty well.
Okay.
I'm a good
okay.
storyteller,
Okay.
and I'm a fairly good essayist.
Ah.
And I keep writing essays, and they go on my website. The last one I put up was about the psychology and the physics of police work.
That was about 3 months
Okay.
ago, yeah.
Oh, really?
You know,
Yeah.
so, and I also wrote about coming to terms with being an old man.
That's another good one, yeah.
Blogs.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a website that has all of my essays on
Don's
social
website
justice.
is
yeah.
really easy to access. You just go to Google and put in Don DuPay, and it will be the first hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? Don
Yeah.
DuPay?
Don DuPay, it'll be the first
That's
hit.
it. Don
Google
DuPay.
sites.
Just Google
Yeah.
site. Well,
Google sites.
that's it. Google. You do Google site.
Just put Don DuPay
Yeah,
and just
just put
type,
in Don
type my
DuPay.
name in Google.
It'll be the first hit, and it'll say Don DuPay's personal website or something like that. But yeah, it's the first hit.
So
And
there's
he's got-
a list of essays from social justice about the police, about marijuana legalization, about integrity with police departments, the psychology of police work, the physics of why we shoot some people so many times. That's one of my pet peeves right now.
Let's share some of that if you don't mind. We got a little time.
Well-
let's share some of the ones that you like that might be would be relative today. Got me?
Well, what's wrong with the police psychology right now is the one-man car nonsense.
One man car. Yeah.
One-man car nonsense. One-man cars are inherently dangerous, and if you got a call, you said a car, and it's a one-man car, somebody's going to come and back up. So you effectively have two cars anyhow,
Okay.
and those two people should be in the same car. There's a psychology, and if you've been drunk in a bar or you got in any trouble and somebody called the cops, if one guy shows up, you're more likely to take a look at him if you're drunk and say, well, screw you, I can take you.
Yeah.
But if two guys show up, you're going to think twice. So the whole psychology of one man versus two-man cars is a whole different psychology. Also, two men can often solve the problem where one man can't, because two guys can surround a person. One cop stands in front of him, the other cop gets behind him. Then what you gonna do? You know? And if the guy in front of him can't get any cooperation, push him into the cop behind him. So there's things that you can do psychologically with a two-mans instead of one man. You know, Mike Brown might be alive today if that cop hadn't had to wait for backup. He said, if I had just had backup. So,
And that was a young black kid that was.
yes.
He was 18.
Yeah.
So waiting for backup is bullshit.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, on this essay that I'm writing is about the physics of firearms. One of the things that makes people mad today, and nobody understands why does a policeman have to shoot him 4 or 5 times,
Yeah,
or 8 or
okay.
9 times,
Okay.
and he didn't fall down? Bang, 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 he didn't fall down. Well, what happened? Are the police such terrible shots they can't hit the guy? No. They'll hit him 8 or 9 times, and they still don't fall down. There's an old saying in law enforcement, there's an old saying in gun stuff, that lethal begins at 40. That's 40 caliber.
Yeah.
38 does not qualify. 9mm, which is essentially the same hole, but with a little different powder behind it, but it's the same problem. It doesn't qualify as lethal. 40 caliber and above qualifies as lethal. Oh, so if you have to shoot somebody 8 or 9 times before they fall down, then maybe you're not using the right ammunition. Wow. Maybe. Maybe if you went to a different kind of ammunition, you'd only shoot the guy maybe once or twice and you fall down. Maybe that's a better solution. So along come the air marshals back in the middle 70s, and the air marshals' job was to stop these hijackers. Well, if you shoot a gun inside of an airplane, they were worried about the bullet going through the airplane and causing a big mess. So they developed a designer ammunition that's basically a .45 caliber round, but it has small pellets inside, so it's like a miniature shot. So when it hits the person, it just penetrates and creates this horrible wound, kills them. But it doesn't fragment. It doesn't go through the airplane. So they have that kind of ammunition today. If I shot you with my regular .45, you'd probably, if I hit you in the arm, it'd tear your arm off. But you might not fall down. But if I hit you with one of these new shells, you're going to fall down. And you're not going to hit anybody. That's one of the things that police have the problem with. If I shoot somebody, where's the shell going to go? Where's it going to go?
Yeah, right.
Where's it going to go? And you always think about that. I always thought about that when I was a cop. Where's the shell going to go? And with this new ammunition, you don't have to worry about that.
No, that we have now.
They have it, but they're not using it.
They're not using it.
The police are not using this ammunition.
Why is that?
I don't know, because they're not using it. It's one of the things they need to do. They need to get a higher caliber, so they're more effective on their first shot. And if you give me a .45, and I can't take you down in 2 shots and I'm a cop, then you need to fire me. You need to fire me, because they need to be able to do that. And there's nothing I had a Facebook conversation with a guy who said, well, maybe they're just shooting too many people because. I said, well, how about we use 22s? Let's use 22. We have a 50-round clip. Maybe we can knock them down in 50 rounds. So it's about the size of the caliber. So if you want to make the police look good, and nobody wants to talk about that, give them bigger ammunition. Give them a heavier caliber gun. Who wants to hear that? Nobody.
Yeah.
But that's the solution to the problem.
Yeah.
2-man cars. No more of this arguing and fighting with people. I see these cops pig-piling people. Why? I never pig-piled anybody. You need to go back to this. I was never hired to fight. If you argued with me, you'd probably wake up on the ground, handcuffed. And that's the way they should go back to some of that. You know, the tasers came along, and that gives them the distance. Well, I can stand over here.
Right.
I don't have to talk to you. I can shoot you from across the room.
Right.
You know, I think if there was ever a study done in Portland deaths at the hands of police, it would be interesting to have a study done comparing deaths by chokehold and deaths by taser, and also nationally. I think one person died by the chokehold, and that was Tony Stevenson.
Marine.
Yeah, and that was a tragic death, but it shows that more people die today because of tasers than the chokehold. And when they have they get excitable. I can't remember what it's called, but they a lot of people are on methamphetamine or drugs, and then they get tased, and their heart stops. You know, they have arrhythmia and their heart stops. But I think that it would be interesting if a criminology student wanted to do a study to determine what's more dangerous, tasers or the chokehold. And really, tasers are more dangerous. More people die from tasers. I mean, I think there's been 500 or 600 people have died in the last 15 or 20 years.
Over 600 people.
Not nationwide. So tasers are killing people more than the chokehold ever did.
I have a friend who's a policeman in Gresham, and I asked him about the tasers, but I did a ride along, and he said he agreed with me that they have that extreme potential for abuse.
Yeah.
But he said once you stop, you pull the trigger. Once you stop, the pain stops. And I think that they need, if they're going to continue to use tasers, they need more sensitivity training with tasers.
Yeah.
You know, you don't just keep tasing people.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
there's a time when you use that, and there's a time when you stop.
Yeah.
So because they have that potential for abuse,
Yeah.
I've always been against them.
And if you want to find out about that, you can go to YouTube and just put in tasers, police officer, whatever, and you'll see these. I've seen these horrible videos on YouTube. LAPD is pretty bad. They do it a lot. And these guys get really excited and they want to punish someone. They're angry, the guy's resisting, he's fighting, he's pissing them off.
Yeah.
They want to punish him, so they want to tase him because they know he's going to wiggle and he's going to cry for his mama. And I've seen these guys get so excited, they'll start yelling, tase, 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 and they get like all worked up. You know, and these are the kinds of cops that abuse it, that tase someone to the point where they kill them because you're putting in so much electricity into that body that their heart begins to beat. You get arrhythmia and the heart stops.
You know,
so,
People need to realize that it's just a cattle prod
Yeah,
with a short handle.
yeah,
That's all it is.
That's all it is. It's a cattle prod with a short handle.
yeah.
Interesting.
You know,
Interesting.
and
Wow.
I don't know.
Well, tell me this.
When I ran for sheriff,
Go on. Talk to me.
I was going to get rid of tasers.
2006.
It would
yeah.
have started a war, but I think it would have been a good war.
Well, you got my vote.
Yeah.
I'm sure Richard will probably. So you got 2 votes tonight. He's gonna do a. We're gonna do a write-in.
I was gonna say,
We'll do a write-in. See, we're doing a write-in.
Pro wrestling has to stop the chokehold. Is that right? Because it was so
Probably.
effective.
It's effective, yeah.
Yeah.
It's effective.
Very effective.
I think
You
that's
know?
why they have said no chokehold.
Hey, while we got about 10 minutes, let's talk a little bit about the school shootings up in Florida. What thoughts did you guys come up with?
You need armed people
Yeah.
outside of the school. They need to have the same kind of protection that the bank has.
Well, I was reading on Facebook today an article. Apparently, just recently, a armed gun enthusiast teacher accidentally shot a student trying to demonstrate how to disarm someone. So I don't believe teachers should be armed. I just don't believe teachers should be armed because 99% of teachers are really peaceful, enlightened
teachers.
individuals. They're
They're
teachers.
teachers.
They're not gun enthusiasts. I agree with Don that we should definitely have armed security guards, and they could be volunteer retired law enforcement. They could be volunteer retired military. But I support the kids, and I posted about it on Facebook. I support the kids protesting because they just want to be safe. I mean, can you imagine? None of us had to go through grade school or
Anything
high
like
school
that.
experiencing anything like this. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. I was in grade school and high school all through the 70s and the early 80s. I never had to deal with this kind of thing. I mean, I feel terrible for the kids today because they go to school and they wonder, is it going to be my last day I'm alive? Am I going to get shot and killed because I decided to go to high school today? So I definitely support the kids wanting to protest. Some people on Facebook, some gun enthusiasts, a couple people I saw posted about the kids and what do they know? Well, and I pointed out, did you have to deal with this? I didn't. I'm 52 years old. I didn't have to deal with this when I was growing up. So I definitely support what they're doing.
Well, think about the transitioning. Back, let's say when I was coming up, it was just a knife. You had a bad guy with a knife, but beforehand it was you just have a fight.
Yeah.
First it was just a fight, and then you see somebody with a knife. Oh my God! I mean, and then I'm thinking about the transitioning. I think about Portland Public School. Remember the Locketts? Locketts was over there. They had a police deal. They had the school police aspect of it. Dressed in uniform and whatever, and they'd patrol the deal. But the other main person that counted all of this stuff was the custodians. They knew who the people were on those campuses.
Well, that's what the schools don't do enough either for their own security. I mean, I still go to Portland State. You can walk in any place.
Yeah.
The doors are always open.
Yeah.
And shoot anybody you like.
Those are older people.
Because and if you can still go up to the school and open the door and walk in, you shouldn't be able to.
Right.
Teachers are not basically.
No, that's
Teachers
not,
teachers are not alpha males. Teachers are basically not alphas. You need an alpha with a gun outside the door. You need somebody to protect them. It need to be as much protection as the bank gets.
Yeah.
The bank guards are just
Right.
protecting somebody else's money.
Yeah, and they're all there.
And they need to have a guard there protecting somebody else's children.
Yeah.
So armed guards is one of the solutions. Tighter school security
Yeah.
is another. I mean, lock the doors, Jesus.
Yeah.
really.
I can tell you, one of the problems is giving these shooters too much television attention.
Absolutely.
Every time I was looking at the set, here's this Cruz kid, full face. They shouldn't put him on at all.
Yeah.
He should go into total obscurity.
I agree.
Just disappear completely and stay out in prison for years and years and years.
The other thing I really want to mention, Dawn and I have guns, and I know a lot of people that have guns, and I just want to say, number one, the shooter should not have been able to buy that rifle.
Yeah.
He was a kid. A teenager should not have the legal means to buy a rifle. That's wrong. But people, it's part of the Constitution, and I believe in the right to bear arms. And I just want to say, it sounds like a cliche, but it's true. Guns don't kill people,
That's right.
people kill people. And the reason we have this surge in school shootings is because it has very little to do with guns or gun culture. It has everything to do with this loss of value. There's been a loss in the last 20, 30, 40 years of valuing human life. And I personally attribute it to reality TV and the which really began about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the beginning of this hostile attitude of social rejection. You're fired. You didn't get the girl on Bachelorette or The Bachelor. This sense of humiliating and embarrassing people. It's kind
Publicly,
of like publicly, and it
that's
really
right.
started before reality TV. It started with like the Jenny Jones show and some of those talk shows where they would do the gotcha ambush interviews. There was a guy that was interviewed, I think it was on the Jenny Jones show or something, and he came to the show thinking that he was going to be introduced to a girl who had a crush on him, and they ambushed him, and he realized that it was actually this bartender guy that he knew from his neighborhood who was gay. So he comes on this show and he's humiliated. Later that night, he goes to find the bartender with his shotgun and he blows him away. It was the very first murder, I think, that happened as the result of an ambush talk show. But I think that along with reality TV, has contributed to this sense of revenge. And social media is a big problem too, because kids don't have any privacy today.
No,
they're in the spotlight, and if they're not a member of Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and all of the rest, then they're considered a loser. There's just been this huge shift in valuing or not valuing human life. So it sounds like a cliche.
Well, who should intervene? Who should intervene now? That's what we're talking about, leadership again.
Oh,
too, see?
gosh.
Who should intervene?
I don't know. I
People just kind of at a loss. They have to say, well, it's not in my backyard, so to speak. But
the
then all of a
media
sudden-
has so much influence.
Cut down tell the media. Calm it.
But they won't. They never will.
That's the problem.
The media will do everything they
gotta
can
sell
for
that ad.
ratings and for money.
You gotta sell
It
that
really
ad.
comes down to parents protecting their children. I raised my daughter, she's 26, and we never had cable, and I never bought her a video game. I just said no. Two summers we had cable when she was about 6 or 7, but we didn't have cable. We didn't have a lot of things other kids had. So when she was 5 and 6, she was watching the Lawrence Welk Show, and she was watching Sesame Street, and she was watching what was available. But I really protected her from overexposure to violence and to the media and television, the bad programs, the violent programs, the programs where people are exploited. She wasn't allowed to see those. And so you've got kids today. It sounds kind of like a cliche also that I'm complaining about this, but I have my own life to look back on. You've got kids today that are 7 and 8 years old that are watching their parents' videos of people having sex, maybe not pornographic sex, but dramas. They're just exposed to too much.
Well, there's parenting is the problem.
Yes.
See, there's no
It
parenting
is.
now. See,
Yes.
we know what the problem is, and we're the cause of the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this high tech stuff like you're talking about right now, we're benefiting from it from we're eating. So hey, give me more of those and look at my stock this week, right? You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I've got any problems with that, then hey, look, I'm an enthusiast. The Second Amendment. I'm gonna give me about 10 more guns. Give me a bazooka, maybe get me a tank now.
Yeah. There's such a focus on in today's culture, in today's American culture, there's such a focus on revenge.
Oh, yeah.
Revenge. And it's really, really sad. And I just wish that more people had more compassion, you know.
Well, nothing to do. That's the other issue.
Yes.
Nothing to do. And I'm thinking about, especially now with the baby boomer era, like I said, when you knock at these doors, people are just, they're just anxious. They just talk to someone.
Right.
And there's nothing there for them. The two, like I said, it's all national TV, and it's hate.
Right.
We talked about this, but
Right.
we've done this for quite some time. But it just goes on and on and on. Yeah.
Right. Well, we're about there.
We're about there now.
Yeah.
We got about about a minute and 5 seconds.
We need to say thank you to our
This has been
group.
fantastic. Oh, thank you guys for being
Thank
here.
you
That's
for
right.
letting us
Gee
come on
whiz,
again.
we did 2 good shows. I thought it was great. We educated a lot of folks. But please get out and
About
register to
them.
vote. And vote, folks. Register to vote. Get registered to vote. We gave you a good example, and I'm running, but register to vote. Not necessarily me, but me first. But anyway, but the bottom line is that you got to get involved in the process. That's the other thing. If we're going to change it.
And you've done very well.
Well, like I said, I feel pretty good, but the military gave us quite a bit in terms of educating us in boot camp, right, of all things. We don't have a boot camp now. As far as I'm concerned, we should have the draft. A lot of folks don't like the idea of the draft piece, but it gives you an opportunity. One to go, you can get out of Dodge for a minute.
Don went to boot camp when he was 16.
16, I heard that. I'm still in boot camp.
I joined the reserves, so.
Is that right? I got you. Well, here we go. That's it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Richard, for allowing us to do this. We appreciate it.